Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a look at a really eye-opening set of sources. They unpack the story of Rachel Buscall. She's described herself publicly, as a award-winning entrepreneur, a smiling CEO, and she often promotes these things she calls safe alternative investments.
Right. On the surface, it sounds quite impressive. Trustworthy, even.
Exactly. But, our mission today is really to cut through that very polished image.
Okay.
We're going to explore the pattern that kind of emerges when you really dig into the details.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about one person, is it? It's more about understanding how appearances can be, profoundly deceiving.
Absolutely. And the very real human cost behind these complex financial schemes, the ones that, often leave ordinary people holding the bag with nothing.
Yeah.
It's actually striking how meticulously a public image can be put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when you get into the sources, you find this really stark contrast. It's a consistent pattern, actually. Failed businesses, deeply problematic partnerships, and investors just left entirely empty-handed will be connecting those crucial dots for you today.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's begin by looking at this initial facade that Rachel Buscall presents. This picture of trustworthiness, professionalism, entrepreneurial success.
Right.
What do the sources immediately tell us about that first impression?
Well, as soon as you move beyond that initial public persona, the story revealed is quite different.
Okay.
It's one of ventures that consistently failed to deliver on their promises. Partnerships that were, say, far from transparent, and a clear trail of investors who lost everything, their life savings in some cases.
Wow.
So it starkly contradicts that upbeat, smiling CEO image, doesn't it?
It really does.
And the effectiveness of that kind of facade, it lies in its ability to sort of generate an emotional connection, right? A sense of credibility.
Yeah, makes sense.
It sort of preys on our inherent trust in, professional appearances. And that can unfortunately override the need for critical due diligence sometimes.
And speaking of building that image, one of the earliest claims she used was this story about a cake business.
Ah, yes, the cake business.
She apparently stated she built and successfully sold a thriving cake company before she ever transitioned into financial services. That sounds like a great story, A relatable origin for an entrepreneur.
Oh, it's definitely a compelling narrative. It's designed to build that rapport, that trust.
Right.
But the truth, as uncovered in our sources, is that the company never really succeeded. It wasn't actually sold.
Oh, so what happened?
Instead, it just quietly closed down, burdened with debt, apparently. It never lived up to the successful venture she described.
Just no thriving business then?
No, just debts and, a quiet disappearance and these kinds of, fabricated backstories. They're classic tactic.
To do what exactly?
To build an illusion of success, of trustworthiness. It makes someone feel comfortable, lowers their guard before any financial proposition is even on the table.
Okay, that's telling. Now, what's particularly revealing about this whole story is how James Baird fits into it.
James Baird.
Her long-term associate, the father of her child. The sources reveal quite a significant past there, don't they?
They certainly do. Stepping back a bit, Baird's history really illuminates a critical piece of this puzzle.
How so?
Well, years before all this, he was convicted of serious financial fraud.
Serious fraud?
Yes. He masterminded a scam that stole over £1 million. Mostly from everyday investors, many of whom were elderly.
Oh, that's awful. Did they get it back?
Devastatingly, no. They never saw their money again.
Wow. Over £1 million.
And despite this extensive and severe history, he just reemerged alongside Rachel on the investment scene, promoting high-risk financial products.
Together, after that conviction.
Yes. And what's truly, truly telling is his own admission. It came out in a phone call.
What did he say?
He quite brazenly stated that Rachel was the perfect front.
The perfect front. Meaning
a seemingly respectable professional public face, someone to make these highly questionable investments appear legitimate and trustworthy.
It's staggering. 1 million stolen elderly victims never saw again. And then he says that.
It really underscores the seriousness of who she was associating with, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And, this leads us to another pretty striking detail.
Which is?
The sources indicate there's just no evidence that Rachel Buscall holds any formal financial qualifications or even comes from a regulated background.
Right. That's key.
So for our listeners who understand the financial world a bit, what's the practical implication of that? What does a regulated background normally offer investors that was missing here?
Okay. Yeah, that's a really important point. A regulated background for an individual or a firm in finance basically means they're authorized by a financial conduct authority, like the FCA here in the UK.
And that's not just paperwork.
Not at all. That authorization isn't just a formality. It requires specific professional qualifications, sticking to strict conduct rules, ongoing oversight. And crucially, it provides investors with a layer of protection. Think compensation schemes like the Financial Services Compensation Scheme, the FSCS.
Right, I've heard of that.
That can offer some recourse if a regulated firm fails. Without that regulation, investors have virtually no safety net.
Which seems to be the situation here.
Precisely.
Huh.
And that's exactly why so many problematic schemes operate in this unregulated space. They intentionally skirt those vital protections.
And those high-risk products she was involved with, what were they likely to be?
Almost certainly things like unregulated bonds, maybe illiquid property schemes, or other sort of exotic investments, things designed specifically to bypass standard investor safeguards.
So putting this together, we're seeing a very clear pattern emerging from these sources.
Yeah.
The faces might change sometimes, maybe the specific tactics shift a bit, but the outcome for the investors seems tragically consistent.
It is. And another compelling aspect is just that you find the same individuals, often working behind the scenes. You hear the same promises of security, safety, and then you witness the same devastating outcome when the money just disappears.
And Rachel Buscall's role in this pattern.
Well, her name, through these various threads, consistently appears right at the very heart of these operations. She acts as this sort of recurring common denominator.
Right. And that pattern, it really comes into sharp focus with the more recent development, doesn't it? Something in May 2025.
Ah, yes. Billy Jackson.
Another familiar figure involved with her.
Associated, yes.
He apparently agreed to pay £80,000 to settle claims linked to some collapsed investments.
Correct.
But did it happen?
He just vanished. Poof. No payment. No follow-up. Nothing.
Just gone.
Just gone.
Ah.
And this is where Rachel's response, or maybe more accurately, her profound silence becomes particularly revealing.
How so?
Well, despite her close professional ties and personal ties in some cases to the individuals behind these failed investments, she offered zero explanation. No assumption of responsibility. Nothing.
Just silence.
It was just the sound of doors quietly closing on those agreements, leaving the affected parties totally without answers or accountability.
It almost feels like when the financial pressure builds up, there's a strategic pivot, a change of scene.
That can happen.
Because in Rachel's case, she's now publicly linked to something completely different, right?
Yeah.
A trendy gym franchise promoting high-energy workouts.
A fitness venture.
On the surface, it looks like a completely fresh start, a clean break from finance.
And that's where we need to understand the wider implications. The sources pose a really critical question here.
Which is?
Could this new venture just become the next setting for the same old game?
Interesting.
It's not uncommon, you see, for individuals involved in these kinds of patterns to shift industries or change their apparent business model.
Why do that?
Well, it creates new contacts, new introductions, and potentially another round of risky investments dressed up as fresh opportunities.
Right, a new audience.
Exactly. The core concern is that the underlying business model, the way they obtain funds, rarely changes. Only the scenery does. It allows them to target new pools of, frankly, unsuspecting individuals.
Okay, so let's try and distill this then. The sources seem to be making it incredibly clear. This isn't a one-off. It's not an isolated incident.
No, definitely.
It's a distinct pattern, defined by, 4 key aspects?
I think that's fair.
First, businesses that consistently fail but then get sold or talked about as success stories, like the cake shop.
Yes, the narrative versus reality.
Second, partnerships forged with people who have a documented history of fraud, like James Baird.
A major red flag consistently ignored or utilized.
Third, high-risk investments that are consistently promoted as low-risk or safe alternative, especially to people without that regulatory safety net.
Misrepresentation of risk is central.
And fourth, just complete silence. A total lack of accountability when investors are left, picking up the pieces of their financial lives.
That's a very good summary of the pattern, yes.
Yeah. Now, some might argue, maybe Rachel Buscall herself might argue, that she was just an introducer.
The introducer argument.
Not a regulated financial advisor. How does that distinction play out in reality?
Well, look, the practical reality for investors is often devastatingly similar, regardless of that title.
Okay.
The concept of an introducer can actually be a bit of a legal loophole. It allows individuals to bypass the really stringent regulatory requirements placed on financial advisors.
So they don't need the qualifications or oversight.
Exactly. But they can still direct investors towards products, often products from which they profit, but crucially without the same legal liability.
That seems problematic.
It is. And look, when you are the visible face of a brand, the smiling CEO,
right,
and your close associates are known fraudsters, and ultimately, ordinary people lose everything. The public is absolutely right to demand answers and accountability, regardless of how a role is, legally defined on paper.
Yeah, the impact is the same.
Precisely.
And this really brings us back to the most important element in all of this, doesn't it? The human cost.
Absolutely. That's what gets lost sometimes.
Because behind all the glossy websites, the impressive titles, the complicated jargon, there are real people.
Real lives.
Pensioners, parents, hardworking families who invested their life savings, everything they had. This isn't just about abstract financial diagrams, is it? It's about shattered futures.
That's absolutely right. And you have to remember, these individuals were often explicitly told their investments were secure, safe.
That's the promise.
That's the promise. Only to watch everything they had saved just disappear into a black hole.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. And many of these schemes, they specifically prey on those with retirement savings or perhaps people with limited financial knowledge. They promise unrealistic returns with little to no apparent risk.
The classic, too good to be true.
Exactly. And these people, they deserve justice. They deserve transparent answers about what happened to their money. And frankly, they deserve help to navigate the devastating aftermath of losing what they had worked so hard to build.
Yeah. This deep dive, it really makes you think, doesn't it, about how effortlessly a meticulously constructed image can obscure a far more troubling reality.
Appearances can be very deceiving.
It's just such a stark reminder
Yeah.
that even when things appear professional, trustworthy, buttoned up,
Yeah.
it's absolutely crucial to look beyond that surface, to understand the people and, critically, the patterns behind the promises.
And this really prompts a critical question for you, the listener, doesn't it?
Go on.
How do you, as a discerning individual, actually identify these patterns of deception before you're directly impacted?
That's the key, isn't it? Spotting it early.
It is. Understanding the subtle warning signs. Things like claims that don't quite add up, like that cake story, or associates with a known problematic history, like Baird, or investments promising returns that just seem too good to be true, especially if they operate outside those regulated frameworks we talked about.
Okay.
Recognizing these patterns early, that's paramount. It's really your most powerful tool in helping to prevent the next scandal before it even begins.
That's a really important takeaway. Now, our sources for this deep dive today, they come from Insolvency and Law.
They do a lot of work in this area.
And they are actively working to hold individuals and networks accountable for exactly these types of schemes.
Yes, trying to bring some measure of justice.
So if you, or perhaps someone you know, has been affected by similar situations, they do encourage you to reach out to them. Your voice matters. Your story matters.
Absolutely. Sharing information is crucial in uncovering these networks.